Hello, welcome back to Sapling Tarot. My name is Imogen. Today I'm going to be doing the Tarotmance Tropes tag by the lovely Tarot Magpie. I am, let me see, more than 2 months late to this particular party, which I will admit is on brand for me, but here we are. I thought I didn't actually have enough decks to do this, and also I'm not like a huge romance reader, so I wasn't sure if I had like a firm enough grasp on the prompts to be able to give like good enough answers. And then I was reading a book last week that was prompt number 3, which we'll get to in a moment, obviously, and I thought, no, okay, maybe I do know enough about these things to give a response. So we have 10 prompts, and I'm going to jump straight in with trope number 1. Okay, so prompt number 1 is enemies to lovers, which is, I think, a trope that many people love. I struggle a little bit with the book talk tropification of books because I think it constitutes spoilers. So I've read a couple of enemies to lovers books in my time, but most recently I've read ones going into them knowing that they were enemies to lovers, which I think slightly ruins it. I read these ones by Holly Black that everyone loves, the Cruel Prince trilogy last year, and yeah, it felt a bit like, I don't know, like a bit anticlimactic, because I was just like, well, I know that they're going to become lovers. That's like the whole point. So yes, this was a less predictable thing for me, and it is, well, we have the pocket version of it here. This is the Thoth deck. When I was starting my tarot practice, well, no, when I was starting my tarot practice, I didn't know anything about anything at all. And we'll get to that in a moment. But when I started like getting into knowing more about like traditional systems of tarot, I thought I would never really touch the Thoth deck. I'm a member of the Tarot Association of Britain and stuff. I can't remember what the acronym is now. And they do Thoth Thursday meetups, which I went to a little bit because I was really interested in the concept of the system, despite not owning the deck and not necessarily feeling like it was something that it was going to be for me. I'm not like a big Aleister Crowley person. I have kind of tricky feelings around Kabbalah and stuff, so like I didn't think that it would be the deck for me. I also knew that there was kind of like a hierarchy of editions, and I don't have like squillions of money to throw at really fancy editions of decks, as you can tell by my beat up little pocket Thoth, which I actually ended up getting like for free. So yeah, like I had my reservations, and all those reservations still stand, but my curiosity kind of got the better of me, and the reason that I ended up buying a copy and working with it is that the colours in this deck and the way that they've been really thought out with like your astrological correspondences and stuff like that is absolutely fascinating to me. And there's so much stuff layered into this. We've got the there's so much stuff layered into this that I don't feel like I'm lacking by skipping the Kabbalah stuff. I don't feel like I'm losing out by sort of ignoring the Crowley of it all. I think it's a really interesting deck. I think the artwork's really cool and really different, and it felt like, I don't know, I don't think that this is true, but my sense of it was, for myself, that I wanted to become sort of proficient enough in what to me at the time were like the three main systems of tarot, of the Smith-Waite, the Thoth, although Crowley Harris, and Marseille. And I'm by no means proficient in Thoth or Marseille yet, or what other ones are there? There's Italian, there's, I mean, once you get out of specifically tarot, then you've got Lenormand, and you've got playing cards, and there's like all sorts of different things that you can learn. Tarot is absolutely endless. But I am pleased to have this in my collection, and I'm pleased to get to know it and play with the colours, and it's been really good for like tarot inspired art for me, and so yeah, I didn't think we'd get on, but we do, and we have lots of creative fun together. So this is my enemies to lovers. I will admit that even I could have put the Smith-Waite in for this prompt, because again, the kind of the religious symbolism in the Smith-Waite really doesn't speak to me, or my way of reading tarot, or my way of seeing the world, and so to have like angels and churches and stuff in with it isn't like my absolute fave, but I figured if I could look past it for that, then I could look past it for this. Okay, prompt number 2 is friends to lovers, for which I have my beloved Lilith Tarot Gold Edition by Marion Costantine of Little Darkness. I love this deck. This is like a bit of a funny one, because it was sort of love at first sight when I saw it online, but then when I actually got it in my hands, I was like a little bit, I don't know, was I like intimidated by her? Maybe a little bit. I think she's gorgeous, but yeah, the kind of the blobbing people, the different way of showing things, the astrology of it, I think I was just like a little bit intimidated, and so I had been working with it like on and off since I got it, but sort of being like, oh, she's really pretty, but like I don't, like I'd have to really like sit down and pay attention to read with her. And then I pulled her out for Gemini season, because the whole Lilith of it all feels very Gemini to me, and wow, I was just like finding reasons to do tarot readings. I did the whole of the June Tarot Challenge over on Instagram by Lionhearts. I was just reading so much more than I usually would, because I was just having such a great time using this deck. I paired her with Outgrow Yourself, I paired her with Spacious Tarot in particular, and I just love her so much. So like we were friends. I thought she was pretty, I thought she was fun, but I didn't like really get what she was about until, I mean, just like this past month. So yeah, friends to lovers is the Lilith Tarot, and I love her so much. Okay, prompt number 3 is False Proximity, which is the book I was reading recently, which was The Mars Rune by Natasha Pulley, who is, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, well, my favourite writer of all time, maybe. Certainly one of my favourite writers of all time. And it was so good, and it was different from what I'm usually into, but like I just need to learn to trust her because I like everything she writes. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a false proximity love thing, except it's not, I don't know, is it a romance? I don't know, I'm not very good at these things. But my force proximity deck is my oldest deck, because this was the only deck I had for the first like 10 years of my practice, which is the Osho Zen. Now, your man Osho was a bit of a problematic figure, shall we say. I didn't know that. I knew that like the guidebook is really interesting, but I knew that like it wasn't I didn't love maybe the sort of the spin it was giving, but it was the only deck I had for 10 years. It's what I cut my teeth on, it's what I've done most readings on in my life. It's pretty metal at times, like it's very much a product of its time. It's a 90s baby, just like me, as you can probably see in like the colour palette and the art style. But yeah, this deck has been loved, it has been used. The guidebook is actually like pretty good. If I remember correctly, I haven't really revisited it a ton through like a more current lens, but it's a powerful like heavy hitter deck with like some weird like sort of semi wordplay. It's the Three of Swords, and I mean I can't ignore the impact that this had on my tarot life. So yeah, this is my force proximity deck. It's the Osho Zen, the Osho Zen Tarot. This is also the deck that I've had the most like uncanny readings with, that like set me up on like believing in all of this stuff. But yeah, it's like it's all scuffed and bashed and worn and loved. Okay, prompt number 4 is Soulmates, and I don't have an answer because I personify animism my way too heavily with my tarot decks, and to choose a soulmate would feel like choosing a favourite, and I can't do it. I have tried, and like because I couldn't come up with one for this, I very nearly just like didn't do the tag, and so I've just decided to hold it lightly and simply not answer. Apologies for that one. We're moving on to prompt number 5, the slow burn. I don't have a book for this, but I do have a deck, and it is the Fournier Tarot de Carlotides. I mean, it would help if I maybe showed you the front of the box. I think this deck is so pretty. All the little details and stuff. We got a card. Who is left in the box? Ace of Swords. Oh, it's just so gorgeous. It's so pretty. It's like pretty like cheap and cheerful. I got mine for like, I don't know, £7 on eBay, and I just kind of thought that she'd be like sitting pretty in my collection, maybe like not get an awful lot of use. There are some cards in here where I'm a little bit like, are you sure that's what you mean? It's particularly the Seven of Swords is like a, let's see if I can find her. Yeah, so the Seven of Swords, meh? A little bit confusing, but like in a way that made me like really creatively think about what could that mean, and so it's sort of doing something a bit differently, etc. So I thought this would just be like a nice one to have. She's very pretty, I like the artwork. Did it really matter if I didn't end up working with it all that often? Probably not. I like the kind of folklore-y thing that's going on. I wasn't that fussed if I didn't end up getting an awful lot of use out of it. And then I started to work with it, and it's so much better than I ever could have anticipated. The readings that I get out of it are so spot on. It's way less kind of just like cute and cuddly than it maybe seems, and I mean, it's just like the slow burn element of it is that I didn't have any sort of expectations, and then I was kind of working with it and just sort of enjoying generally, and then kind of eventually clocked, oh wow, this deck is like really good. I even have used it for like client readings, and I don't do that lightly because I really need it to translate. And yeah, it's so cool. I was so pleased, and I'm really glad that I kind of stuck with it, and I sort of finally learned the language that it's speaking, because we're like a hell of a power couple together. So my slow burn is the Tarot de Calotides by Fournier. The lovely backs and the useless guidebook. Okay, so the next prompt is the opposites attract. Again, I can't like think of a book for this one in particular. And also I found it really hard to come up with a deck because I don't feel like I'm the opposite of any of my decks. All of my decks very much feel like facets of me, and that they speak to parts of me like quite clearly. I think my collection sums me up pretty well. I suppose so I picked the most kind of wild card deck that I have that like I don't want to get rid of, and it's the Gentle Thrills Tarot by Isa Beniston, and it's just such a weird deck, and like I love a weird deck. It's like, it's too big for my hands, the colour palette is just bananas, I can't really shuffle it, the cardstock's quite like slippery, and so like I'm a bad shuffler at the best of times, so it's just, yeah, it's like it's kind of pippish, and it's kind of hard to read from like a visual processing stance, and yet I love it anyway. I don't read with it a ton, but I just enjoy looking at the artwork. All the pointy breasted people, all the kind of dramatic eye makeup, I just think it's really fun. And I don't think it's the opposite of me. A lot of my wardrobe looks like the characters in this deck. I think it speaks to a part of me that maybe I don't let out all that often. I've definitely done my makeup like this, but there's like a bold, brash thing that I don't lean into all that often. The irises, there's just so much about this deck that I love, despite it being awkward as all fuck, which again makes it like me. So yeah, it's a funny old deck, but I think it's fab. So yeah, opposites attract. Is it an opposite? Not really, but it's the closest thing I had, and every time I do sort of like a bit of an inventory of my deck collection, I look at it and I go, I don't really read with you, I find you really difficult, and yet I'm loath to give it up. It's a mass market deck, it wasn't expensive, I got it in like the Hay House sale 18 months ago, like the Boxing Day sales, January 2023 kind of time, but I just think it's great. I think it's fab. Prompt number 7, the blind date. So this was like a very early deck in my collection. It is the White Newman, a sacred animal tarot by Alba BG, who is on Instagram and presumably other places. I really recommend checking out their artwork. So beautiful, so cool. It's a liminal 11 deck with the boxes that everybody hates. But again, I remind you, you could put the inner box upside down, and then you only have the flappy lid to contend with. It's got a Limited 11 book, which is it's not the most useful thing in the world, particularly given that they decided to make it a hardback, which is lovely, but then it really limits you for space. And so it's, do we have page numbers? Oh, okay, so it's like 59 pages. But yeah, so I got this deck when I hadn't really worked out what I wanted from a deck yet. I got it from Blackwell's. I got it around the same time as the next deck that we're going to talk about, and I didn't really know what to look for in a deck, so it was a bit of a blind date in the sense of it wasn't quite an impulse purchase, but I didn't really know what to look for. I didn't know what I liked, I didn't know what I wanted, I didn't know anything. What I was looking for was a tarot deck that wasn't only white people, that wasn't maybe only like thin people or bodied people, straight people, or like I was just looking for a deck that was something either that spoke to me more personally or that was like more broadly inclusive. I wanted something without like the overtly, I don't know, Christian imagery of the Smith-Waite, and I didn't know an awful lot about tarot yet, so this was the choice, and I'm really happy with it. I have kept it, and obviously because I'm showing it to you, and it went really well. I suppose like the prompt is just a blind date, so it could have been a blind date that went terribly, but this was a blind date that went really well. I've had this for a good few years now, and it's kept me keeping an eye on Limited 11 decks. I know they've had their issues, but I've been fortunate with the ones that I have had. I think it's great. I don't pull it out all that often because I've kind of nailed down more what I'm after in a deck. But yeah, it was my first foray into kind of animal decks. It's really cool. I think it's great. So a very successful blind date with the White Newman Sacred Animal Tarot by Alba BG and Liminal 11. Okay, point number 8 is a Second Chance. So this is the other deck I was talking about, which is the Wandering Star Tarot by Kat Pierce. And this is kind of an interesting deck. It's mass market, Hay House, I think, yeah. So, you know, widely available. And it has keywords on it. They are slightly blended into the design, some more than others. And I think this one like went to the back of the shelf after a while because I started to find the keywords quite distracting. I used this deck loads when I got it because I wasn't even really still like learning the Smith-Waite system, but I was building confidence, and I think this helped build my confidence, and I would still recommend it to beginners and people who want their confidence building. But over time, like some of the keywords started to, not even as strong as like rub me the wrong way, but they were just things that like I didn't connect with personally. So yeah, I put it to one side. But then when I did my Witches for Palestine video and I wanted to show how you could use tarot to help you do like the kind of personal inner work that's necessary for all of us, but like particularly my like white British counterparts of the mental and emotional inner work of like decolonizing your mind and your practice and thinking about these sorts of things, I've picked out a deck that felt quite like supportive and friendly, and like it was really like trying to kind of give you a nudge in the right direction. And so I pulled this deck out, and yeah, I was just like, I was pleased to go back to it. It felt like kind of a hug of a kind of like welcome home sort of thing. I still wouldn't use it all the time, but I do think that it worked really well in that video, and it's worked really well when I've used it for similar things. So I suppose it's effectively a kind of shadow work, you know, to use sort of tarot tube parlance. I know that there's debate on whether or not we should call it shadow work, because if you're working with it, is it your shadow kind of thing? But I think that it's encouraging. It's not too kind of live, laugh, love, positive vibes only. But yeah, it holds space for like difficult feelings, without being like too dark and twisty, perhaps. So like, there's an example. It's like one of the gentler tower cards that's still the tower card. So yeah, so this was my second chance. I've pulled it back out since that video, which was back in April, I want to say. Jesus Christ, it's been going on so long. If you're interested in more of that kind of work, I really recommend following Activist Witch Isha here on YouTube, and then over on Instagram as well. They've been doing a lot of work with Kutches to Gaza, who are really amazing people who have been helping get aid to the people who need it, refugees coming out of Palestine and into Egypt, setting them up with what they need, money, resources, food, shelter, all of that kind of stuff. Fuck me, it's been so long. But yeah, if you are looking for things to do still and are feeling a loss, then I really recommend checking them out. But yeah, I posted those tarot spreads and stuff on my Instagram and my blog and Substack and fucking everywhere, if you want a bit of support in working through those kinds of things in your own like inner world. Okay, so prompt number 9, Unrequited Love. And this is a little bit unfair on both me and the deck, because I just haven't had like the chance to work with them yet. I have always been like really captivated by the artwork. Sorry, what is it, Imogen? It is the Voyager Tarot by James Wanless, and it's such a cool deck. I've always been like really intrigued by the artwork. I think it's really fun. I think it's really interesting. I'm a sucker for a collage deck, if I'm honest, but I've just not really had the opportunity to work with it all that much yet. So I'm counting this as my Unrequited Love because I love it. I don't know yet if it loves me, if we can work together. The artwork speaks to me quite intuitively, which is really great, which is really encouraging, you know. But yeah, just not really had the opportunity to get into it as of yet. So that was a kind of short and sweet one, but this is the Voyage Tarot by James Wanless, and it is my as yet Unrequited Love. But you know, I'll win them over, I always do. That's not true, and I should definitely make a video about all the decks that I haven't won over and how I've worked that out and what I've done when that's been the case. Final prompt is Love Triangle, which was either 2 decks that are like kind of in competition with each other, or 2 decks that you always use together. And because we're sticking with tarot-mance tropes, so tarot, I do have 2 oracle decks that are kind of competing in my collection. Not enough that I give one up, but enough that I'm kind of aware of it and aware of the decision making that's going on whenever I choose one over the other. But the love triangle of the 2 decks that I always use together is, okay, 1 oracle. We have 1 oracle because I don't tend to use tarot and tarot together, unless I'm doing like Cassie at a Riffle in Time and doing like, what does Kellyanne Maddox call it, like sacred patchwork, where you've got like a bajillion different decks and just throwing cards all over the place and reading them all together. But two decks that I use together are the Oracle of the Roses by Sheridan Darcy and my mind just went completely blank, the Goddess of Love Tarot by Gabriella Herstick. I love these decks together, and because I love these decks together is why I'm keeping the Oracle of the Roses Oracle, despite the fact that I find it really awkward. A lovely person in the comments of the last time I was bitching about this deck said that they had trimmed the gilding off the edges and made it like a much more manageable shuffle, because the cardstock is really thick, it's really big, it's weirdly sharp. But I am annoying and I love the raspberry gilding, and so if I want the deck in my collection, I want it with the raspberry gilding, because apparently I'm just a diva like this. I trimmed my Goddess of Love. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, so I will not be taking remarks on how badly I did it, because I think I'd maybe regret it. Anyway, these decks I used together. I used them together for the month of February, I think. I was doing calendar months rather than like zodiac months at that point. I think they are both gorgeous. They work together really nicely. I know it's very like florals for spring, groundbreaking to use these for Valentine's season and to use them for love readings, but if you watched a new way to do love readings video from February, I talked about how one of the ways that I do love readings for clients is to look at all of the love in their life. Romantic, self-love, friendship love, family love, love of community, etc, etc. And the way that I have it like as a spread is kind of like a map or a compass or something, and it works really nicely to have an archetype deck and the tarot deck working together in tandem. I think the archetypes help ground it, and then the tarot helps like find the specifics, and they work really well together. And like I say, because I love them together so much, that's why I'm keeping this deck, because I do have so I have the Citadel Oracle, which is an archetype deck, and I have the Archeo Oracle, which unsurprisingly is an archetype deck, and neither of them really fits the bill to work in this context. They're both really fun. I love the Citadel Oracle. I haven't really had much of a chance to use the Archeo deck yet. That was like a vintage £5 bargain thing that just kind of went straight on the shelf, you know, be like, I'll see you later kind of situation. I was thinking of working with it for Virgo season, I don't know why, but anyway. So yeah, nothing quite hits the spot that this one does, and so it's still in my collection. I'm kind of intrigued by Sheridan Darcy's other decks because I like this one so much. Like the concept and the content of it, but then is all Rockpool cardstock terrible? I have the Squid Cake Marseille from Rockpool as well, and that's a mini, and that's fine. But yeah, this is my love triangle, a very on the nose love triangle, because it's all very kind of love and romance themed. But yeah, these just like, they sing together, they work so well. I mean, even just from like an imagery standpoint, obviously, like it wasn't really, I didn't have to really think about it to put these two together. But yeah, fab decks, work really well together, even greater than some of their parts. And yeah, love them. So those are my tarot lovers. I was going to mention books for prompts, and then I got excited talking about tarot, so I think you only got like 2 book mentions, but never mind. You're here for tarot anyway, you're not here for books. Some of you are here for books. I'll talk to you about books in the comments. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're taking really good care of yourself. If you like this video, you could give it a thumbs up. You could even maybe consider subscribing. I would super duper appreciate it. I hope you're taking really good care of yourself, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.